Stay tuned. Today I'm chatting with Adrian Ramsay out of Australia, who's a TV show host and home designer. What I really enjoyed most about our conversation is his emotionally holistic approach to servicing clients. As always, I'm your San Francisco referral partner, Shawn Kunkler. Adrian, dude, thanks for joining me today. I am super pumped for this conversation.
Shawn, likewise, and thanks so much for inviting me on your show. It's a real privilege. I love what you do. I love the way you approach real estate and what your show talks about.
I appreciate that. It's really funny and weird how I actually came to discover you. So I go fly fishing, and you're standing out in a river with the sun beating on your head. And unfortunately, my mom got skin cancer on her head, and so I became really self-conscious. And so I bought myself a Stetson open road hat. And because of the interwebs and they track us, I go to Instagram and I see this guy pop up in front of this amazing house with the hat. And so I start looking through your feed, and obviously you're wearing these amazing hats in all your photos, but then I'm looking at the houses and I'm like, dude, these are beautiful designs. And then I realized that you're a designer. And then I was like doom scrolling your page. I'm like, oh my God, this house is beautiful. Oh my God, this one's more beautiful. And I'm realizing through that evolution that you've designed these amazing homes. So I instantly messaged you and I was like, hey man, you have to be on my show. So thank you for taking the leap of faith with me.
I love that. And Stetson, I hope you get to hear that story. I'm a TV host as well. And so if you're on my feed, you'll often see other homes that I didn't design where I host a show called Dream Homes Revealed. And when I was doing that, I'm forever the guy who's like, how do you market things better? How do you take an edge? And we just had a tiny chat before about taking an edge in marketing and how you lead the way with it. And I went, I've got like couple of these Stetson open roads, which I had found the first time I'd ever seen one was in the Continental Club on South Congress Ave in Austin, Texas, and there was a guy two-stepping with a girl in the Continental Club, and when he would spin her, he had an open road on, and of course the brim doesn't get in the way, and I'm like, that is a cool hat. So I'm going and talking to him. He tells me what it is. I go down the road and buy one. That started the sort of deeper love affair with the open road. And then when I got this position to host this TV show, I said to myself, I need a signature that they can't hide. I need something. I need a thing. And so that thing was I went to the producers, can I wear a hat? And they were like, well, what do you mean? I said, can I wear like a hat? And I didn't go too far, and they were like, well, yeah, but not if it shades your face, and not if it does this. I said, yeah, no, that's cool. And so in season 3 of the show, is when I joined the show, I started wearing a hat, and they would say, I've got like a lot of hair, and they would say to me, I'd say I would arrive in the hat. And as I would walk inside, I'd put it down on the table or something, and then I'd do the show without it. And then as I would leave, I would sum up whatever the event was, and I would hold my hat right here in front of me, and I would say, thanks very much. And then I would put it on and do the kind of put it on like this, and then walk past the camera. And I went, so if nobody knows my name, they'll know I'm the guy with the hat, So that will be this signature piece. Well, so I did it, and it started to work out. And so then I rang Stetson Australia and said to Stetson, hey, I'm on this TV show, da-da-da-da. I ended up talking to the general manager of Stetson Australia by chance.
Amazing.
And she said to me, yeah, we could help you out there. We could do that. And so now I have a huge collection of hats.
I bet you do.
And
I have one.
Yeah, right. So that got me into the Stetson open road. What did you buy? What sort of Stetson?
It's right, literally over my shoulder.
I can see it.
It's sitting on top of my cigar case.
And it's up the right way, which I'm really pleased to see. You never sit a hat on its brim. You sit it on its crown. Yeah. And is
it's
it's a
actually
felt?
it's a felt, and
Yeah.
I actually found it was like new old stock vintage.
Uh-huh.
It's probably from
Oh,
the
wow.
70s, and
Oh,
it's like it was perfect, like perfect condition,
so cool.
and I was like, that's mine. Like that's the hat. And so
Yeah.
yeah, anytime you see me fishing, like any post I ever do of me fishing, that hat is on my head.
It's so cool. So cool. Well, it's the hat of presidents,
Yeah.
outlaws, and artists. And I'm not sure what I'm the president of. Outlaw, often. Um, artist, I try to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure which of the three I am, but I absolutely love that hat. And
Yeah.
it's funny, not to go down the rabbit hole of hats, but it fits so well that there's days I'll be wearing it. Like when I fly to the East Coast, I don't want to
Hmm.
put it in a case, so I'll wear it the whole
Hmm.
day on the flight, and I forget I have it on.
Yeah,
It's
me
just
too.
like it's like a good pair of shoes where it just fits so good.
Yeah.
It just becomes you. So I love
I
that that's your brand.
Exactly. It was just how do you signature yourself, and I love the hats anyway. But signaturing yourself is one of those things. You
Yeah.
guys, you're talking with real estate agents all the time, and in that, how are they giving people a touchstone that people remember them by? And this is marketing 101. It's like how do you how you've got to be your own brand first.
Mhm.
And if you're not your own brand first, which is a description of your values and a description of your personality as your own brand, and how do you be that first, and then like anything, that brand will fit with some people and it won't fit with others. Just work
Yeah.
with the ones that gravitate towards your brand, that enjoy your
Yeah.
brand.
I like that you say that because I think at the heart of it as a real estate agent and most business owners is we want to attract everybody, but a really, really good brand actually
Mm-hmm.
repels a group and it
Mm-hmm.
attracts the other group because
Mm-hmm.
you are that community. Um, and it's interesting. I do really appreciate that you talk about it. It's like you first. It's almost like when you're on a flight, they say
Yeah.
the oxygen mask drops down, put yours on first so you can then help everybody
Yeah.
else. I feel, especially as entrepreneurs, that is so important because if you're not showing up as you, the real,
Mm-hmm.
genuine you, it's so hard for you to deliver and serve. And I know that's incredibly important for your brand. I read through your website and I literally read the word relationship numerous times, and even our brief conversation prior to recording, it it comes you exude the client care and the relationship just through and through. And I would
Mm-hmm.
love to. I know that you work on not just like the design of the home or the location of the home, but the whole emotional connection people have to the home. I would love for you to explore that with us.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you for all those kind words as well. You know, one of the things that I think is that if you've got a bad client, and when I say bad client, there may just be no magic between you. There may be you've made the choice for the wrong reasons. Like if you like me and you draw houses, if that's what we do, we're about to draw something that's got a significant cost, and beyond it having a significant cost, those people are going to live in it because we don't really do a lot of development properties. Some, but not much. So with that, they're going to live in it. And when they come to us, they don't come to us because we draw houses. It's just like they don't go to the builder because they build houses. They come to us because they have a dream of what they want to live in. And
Yeah.
they've got a budget that they're going to manipulate into this dream. And so we are just steps to them getting to their dream. And so as long as we hold on to the end piece of what we're doing, that it's about getting them their dream, we actually have to care about it. And so if we choose a client because we go, oh, we want that because it's cash flow, or we want that for whatever reason, it fills a hole in our stuff or whatever. and they're not the right client, then they could be just kind of level and no excitement. Well, it's really hard to bring wonderful design and joy to them as people if you can't find some magic. And if you get one and they won't follow your process, and they are really difficult to deal with, they're really, that kind of a client, then they consume your energy that you would use for the other clients. And
100%.
so client selection and them being able to find you and you find them is super important. And you're just saying about the emotional side of it. If we go, our goal is to create a piece of this person's dream, but it's a piece that they're going to touch. Sometimes it's holiday homes. Let's just say it's a piece they're going to touch every day that they live in this home. Their friends are going to touch it, their family's going to touch it, all their significant relationships are going to touch this home. When that's the case, we have a responsibility to get them to their dream, because that's why they're really there. We look at it, first of all, we've got to draw them a bunch of pictures, we've got to discover the site, we've got to do all those things. No different from you as a realtor, they have a dream of finding the right place for them within their budget, within their needs, and that's your job, is to discover them. You kind of discover the people, and then you discover the stock available for those people, and you try and make this match, or you do make this match. And you have to often go into a home that is somebody else's home, that's furnished by somebody else, that has all the things that they've collected. Even if you've pared it all back, it's got, unless it's a new home and it's staged, or a new home and it's empty, you have to get them to not see all that, but swap it for all their stuff. So you have to get them mentally to do that. And then only once they get to a sense of it feeling right, will they start to make decisions that are emotionally satisfying for themselves. All buying decisions are emotional. We bought that because we just had to. Well, we still made a choice of what we bought when we go to get it. Oh, it was the only one there was. Yeah, we still had an emotional decision because we needed the thing. We were under stress. So all decisions that we buy in are emotional. So as a realtor, when you go into a place, as I say, it's either staged, it could be empty. Can your client visualize? Can't they visualize? Can you visualize enough to be able to go, oh, when I came to your place, you had that amazing sofa and you had that beautiful coffee table. Can you see that in this space? If we were going to put that in this space, where would you put it? What would be important about it? And then they start to go, they start to live in that space all of a sudden. And they may go, it wouldn't work for us. Or they may go, it would work for us. If they go, it wouldn't work for us, great, move to the next one. That's just a tick. It just moves you to the next place. If they go, oh wow, we can see this, and then you start to expand on that, then with that expansion, if you get the right place to start, you've got to be really careful with empathy, and the fact that when you make somebody vulnerable and they give you their vulnerability, you have to hold that like it is the most golden goose that you've ever held. It is truly a person, and it's truly a person being themselves with you. That is sacred. That's sacred. You need high empathy, and you need high value and high values. You need to really, you can't just take it and manipulate it. You've actually got to let yourself be with them at that moment and envisage it. Drop to them. Drop into who they're being in that moment. So there is that. But when you've got it, if you discover the favorite place in their own home, and we just played this little game before, where I did it with you.
Mhm.
If you take a client to a house and you have already spoken to them about their own home and you've seen the house they're in, they're selling or whatever, if that's a possibility. If not, you could do it the way we just did it. And then you go, okay, so where would that spot be in this home? Let's discover it. Because it might not be the home for you. Take it away. It might not be the home for you. If we can't create that room, if we can't create that feeling, you need that as part of your life. And then let them actually come into that space. And imagine, you can't, here's the example. You said, you saw these homes on that I'm in and have designed. You can see them, you can go, oh wow, they're visually there. There's not really any other senses that are used. There's just visual sense. You can only feel a home when you're in a home. You can't feel it from a photograph. You can imagine it, but you can't feel it, physically feel it.
That's a great point.
When people buy off the internet and they go, oh, we'll take that one, they get to project the feeling that they had into that home, and maybe it will deliver back or not. I often ask people when I'm designing about things that trigger them, or when I say trigger them, that sounds wrong. Sorry, that sounds negative. That we will do that too. But I take them on a little journey to discover where their anchors are from. So an example would be, I'd go, close your eyes, and I'd say, I want to play a game with you. I want to see where this takes you. Close your eyes, and I want you to imagine you're in a tree-lined street, and the trees aren't hanging right over the road, but they're coming close to hanging over the road. And the road's long, and it's got a few cars parked on either side, and it's got a footpath, and it's sunny, and the light's filtering through the trees down onto the road, and on either side of the footpath there is or sidewalk, you guys would call it. On either side of the sidewalk, the land kind of just humps up a little and runs up towards the house. And as it runs up towards the house, there's a big lawn. There's a lawn, and the house is kind of like a craftsman style home that you might find, in this case, maybe in the valley in Los Angeles or somewhere. So it's got that sort of craftsman style, large front steps, a deep porch. It's got a tree in the front yard as well. It's not just all driveway, it's a little broader, a bit wider. And there's a woman sitting on the stairs of the front porch, and there's a long-haired golden Labrador kind of just hanging with her, and she's sitting and she is talking to another woman who is sitting on the front porch. And so you can start to envisage all this, and there's a breeze, and they're laughing a little bit, they're chatting, and then in the tree there's a rope that's hanging from the tree, and it's got an old tire in it, hung around it. So it's a real makeshift tire swing. And there's two kids playing on this makeshift tire swing. And so most people can envisage this because it's in most Hollywood movies at some point. There's a certain romantic genre that Hollywood uses. Now we anchor to that because we went to, in the olden days, we used to go to a movie. Nowadays, it's still a piece of so in the olden days, it was an event. We went to a movie, we saw this thing, it could turn into a thriller or a horror movie in a heartbeat. They would drag you in the same way.
True.
But when we do that, they went to an event, they sat with somebody they cared about, they ate popcorn, they ate ice cream, whatever it is. Emotionally they anchored it, and then Hollywood gave them all these curated beautiful scenes that take them on this journey, which is a good time, feel good journey. And when we're doing that, it's what we're trying to do when we're trying to get people to unwrap their emotions, is where did that emotion come from? Was it your grandma's place? Was it come from somewhere? If we know where it came from, we've now got the cues to play it out to. You know, like, do you know what a Dutch door is? A Dutch door, when you've got, I can't do it with my hands. The top half opens and the bottom half opens separately.
Yes.
So, yeah. We call that a Dutch door here in Australia. I've designed several homes that have Dutch doors. Now, often you would find a Dutch door on a farm because you can close the bottom, keep the dogs out, whatever. Have the top open, get all the breeze. Now, I do quite a few homes on acreage. And so Dutch doors are a memory from somebody's growing up at their grandmother's place or their... And they go, I've got to have one. Yeah.
That's exactly where I went when you said that. 100%. Yep.
So when we find that piece, that's how we can make the architecture, respond to them as people, because we can go, how do we recreate this feeling that felt so good? Even when we do it in a modern house, not an old house, you know, like we can bring it to that, and that story lives with them, and the anchor of that story lives with them, and the traditions that they created and all the rest. So we created the process we call the emotional floor plan to create that piece. Now, if you were really hard and brutal, I'd just say it's a wonderful sales tool. Because once people are in deep empathy, or you're in deep empathy with people, and they're emotionally attached to the way that you've guided them to find and discover themselves, then you've built trust, like deep trust with them. And that's why I say you've got to be so mindful and respectful of the fact that they've allowed you in.
Yeah.
And you can never take it flippantly, because if you destroy that, then you are in a position where where they will really feel violated because of it, and they will tell other people. So it's got a two-edged sword. Yeah. So that finding that emotional floor plan, when we're drawing a house that doesn't exist, we have to start with that. When we're doing a renovation or an addition to a home, we want to build off that. We want to find those different pieces and support them. And if we can support those people and where they're going to be, then we bring more joy to their life, we bring more harmony, we bring more value to their lives, and then they bring more value to other people's lives by living in a better place. Yeah, it's all a journey to get somewhere.
I agree. It is a journey, and it's a relational journey. And to your point, it's all held together with threads, and so it's very fragile, and you have to really care deeply for them and for their experience. I don't know how to eloquently follow that. That was so amazing and well said.
The key is if you can find people that you can make magic with, you don't have to make them your best friend. You just have to be able to make magic with them. And if you can make magic with them, and they can make magic with you, then you've got a match made in heaven. And then if we get to the cold hard facts of business, they will recommend you like crazy, because you've not only serviced them with their need, you've gone beyond that, and you've made this connection that's way deeper. And so, as I say, it comes with responsibility, but it truly gets people. You can be in the moment, and they can be in the moment. So I love that. I love that stuff.
I love that too. And, and it goes back to brand is not everybody wants to take that journey with you. And that's totally fine and okay. But find those people who do, and you are going to have a better experience, and they're going to have a much better experience. And, from a sales and entrepreneurial perspective, that's hard. Acknowledging. But I also think there's, on that same vein of energetic reciprocity, if they're not a good fit for you, then recommend them to somebody who will be, and at least put the energy, give it to where it needs to be. And that's, again, it's really hard to turn money down. I understand and totally appreciate that, but I have found in my experiences, clients who are hard in the beginning, they're going to be hard in the middle, and they're going to be hard at the end. It never is going, like, you're not going to change them. It's not going to get better. And they've, unfortunately, they'll suck the energy out of you and probably time to boot.
Yeah, they will. And look, you don't have to give all the money away. You can conjunct with somebody else. You can share it. If you can find somebody who deals with that kind of person better. I had a job. I designed a home for a couple, and it was a really mixed story. So what happened was a friend of mine, when I say a friend of mine, a supplier of mine, who had become a friend because, I'd be always buying from him, from his company.
Yeah.
And he said, could you help these people I know? And I'm like, I don't know, could I? And he's like, well, this guy's really difficult, and he's a nice guy. Like, he's genuinely not a bad guy, but he's just really difficult. And I said, right, so what do you want me to do? And he goes, design them a house. And I'm like, look, his name's Chris. I said, Chris, mate, I trust you. He goes, the reason I'm asking you is because I don't know any other designer that would probably be able to deal with them. And I said, okay, what does he do? Oh, he's an accountant. He has his own accounting firm. He's mainly a tax accountant for small business. Okay. And I said, okay, I'll go and meet with him. So I went and met with him, and he's abrasive. And in our first conversation, he asked me a bunch of questions about what it would cost to build something. And I said, well, what are we building? I don't understand.
He's a numbers guy.
Yeah, numbers guy. And I'm like, it's going to cost you around, and I can't remember back in those days, I said, it's going to cost you somewhere between, say, $2,000 a square meter, so I can't do the math, divide it by 9, and $3,000 a square meter, I think, for this kind of house. And he leant across the table and he said to me, so I'm an accountant. And I went, yep. And he goes, I have builders who I do the accounts for, so I know what it costs per square foot for you, per square meter to build a house. And I went, oh, okay, cool. And he goes, it's not going to cost that. And I said, okay, cool. I said, I'm just telling you from, his name's Peter, from my perspective, what I know. And from the builders I deal with. Yeah, well, I'm going to run my own build. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool. And anyway, so this conversation went on a bit. And he finally, I said, oh, I'll work with you. But this is how I work. This is what I'm going to charge you. This is what it's going to be. And anyway, so off we journeyed down this. And one of his things was the block is, I can't remember, 400 square meters. And there's a footprint allowance of 50% of the block you can build on. Mm-hmm. And for the second story, you're only allowed 45% of the first story. And one of his design brief stipulations was, you must cover 50% of the block. And I'm like, right. So let's just say then I knew my footprint on the ground was 300 square meters. Because that's 50% of 600, so I can work with that. And upstairs is a little bit less. I designed this home with them, him and his wife. His wife was really lovely. And I designed it. And it's very particular to their kind of style of what they wanted. And anyway, we're going along. And he goes, okay, so show me the sizing here. And we were a square centimetre is like less than half an inch. In the plan, we were a square centimetre. We were 3, I think it was, square centimetres. So maybe nearly a square inch, or thereabouts. 3 square centimetres smaller than half.
Oh,
And he's
jeez.
like, I want the plan altered. And I said to him, I'll tell you what, Peter, you have a look and you show me one wall I can move by 1 millimetre and get that out of this house. Because there was no wall short enough to be able to just move it that much. It would have been like, drawing a pencil line. And the thing is that the builder's never going to build it that accurately either. So, but that was the kind of pedanticness. And every time he'd say to me, so what do you think that's going to cost? I'd say to him, Peter, we made some rules. We established some rules. I'm going to tell you what I think. You're going to tell me that I'm wrong because you already have a client or know somebody. I'm going to then defer to your pricing. So this is how blunt I was. I'm going to defer to your pricing on what it is, and we'll call that the right thing. So anyway, this house was going to cost him $750,000, and that's what he told me it was going to cost. And I'm going, the footprint's going to cost you $750,000. But I'm with you, Peter. I'm with you. You know how the game works. I'm not an accountant, mate. I draw pictures. And I remember standing on site, and all the earthworks were done, and the base of it was all built, and the roof wasn't quite on, but it was about to go on. So the walls were there, and I said to the site foreman, his name was Shane. I said to Shane, how you running budget-wise? Because we've only got, although we've got a lot of structure there, we don't have what's really going to cost the money. And he goes, we're at about 350 or something. I'm like, so we're nearly halfway through the budget. And I said this to him, and he just started laughing. He said, he thinks it's going to cost that. Yeah, I know. Shane got fired from the job, I think 3 times, maybe 4.
Oh my gosh!
But he'd keep employing him back. This is how difficult this guy was.
Oh my gosh!
And finally, I fired him right towards the end. I just fired him. He wanted me to, Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I fired him as a client, and it's only one of 2 clients I've ever fired. But it was never going to be an easy match.
Yeah.
And they got a beautiful home out of it. They got a really beautiful home out of it. And I reckon 10 years later, I was standing in a queue in a shop, and this guy taps me on the shoulder, and it was this guy, Peter, and it was like he had spotted a friend across a park and run to give them a hug. He was so... Remember, I fired him. He was so like, it's so good to see you. We love living in our home. And just told me all about the family and what was going on and all the rest. When I fired him, his wife was in tears and begging me to come and just continue finishing the job. I'd done the design. We were working on interior stuff, and I just went, you know what, it's too hard to deal with. It's just too much. It's too much. Yeah. So I fired him, told him where he could find somebody else, warned them that he was going to contact them, and then said... Yeah, but it was just, So again, that magic, it takes so much energy and so much...
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But how's that, eh? 10 years later, or not even maybe, he's hugging and kissing me in the store, like, saying, man, you've created the best house we've ever had. Like, it's just so fantastic.
I mean, it's still, it sounds awful, but it sounds like at least you left him with that dream home at the end. He
actually got what he came. Yeah, he got what he came for. Yeah, which is interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Anyway.
Yeah,
so that
it's funny. Similarly, I work with a lot of engineers and accountants and CFOs, and they're wired different. It's numbers. It's dollars and cents. They're they're almost like wired to not have the emotional connection, but just looking at the data points of, well, this home sold for this, so this one's then, valued at that. And I'm like, yeah, but that one had no views. This one has panoramic Golden Gate views. It's
So if you get that, here's something that I do, which I'd be really interested to what you do. So that view has a dollar value. So if that same house was sitting without the view, and then you went, okay, so that's that house there, then that view has a dollar value. It might be $1 million, it might be $100,000, I don't know. Do you establish in neighborhoods what the view portion is worth, in respect to the house that doesn't have one? Or what are the unique pieces that the home brings?
That's really tricky. And it's funny, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. What we do when we're assigning a value is there's the art aspect of it and there's the science. And the science always has quantifiable data. But certain homes, as you know, you walk in and they feel good. Well, I can't assign a dollar amount to a feeling, but we know we have it. Like I saw your homes, I had a feeling, though I'd never set foot in it, I had a feeling about the homes. And that's a really hard, non-tangible data point to then assign an actual dollar amount. I mean, the best way to approach it in that case is to pull comps of properties that were similar, even if they're not in the right time frame. Let's say it sold 2 years ago, but there's a property that's similar. Then I can pull comps from that same time frame and then compare it to itself against that time frame and then show there's a delta between the two. And then translate it to today. But I found working with those clients is I can give them the facts and the data and the reports, but I can't give them the definition of what that means. They don't want that. They are the type who have to define it for themselves. And so I just have to know where to go to find the supporting information they need. Whereas the high, like the really strong driving D-type personality, like the CEOs, they usually have advisors. They have all the CFO, the CMO, they have all those other people. So they have a different, you can give them the report, but give it to them in bullet point form. Like, here's the full report.
Don't waste their time.
Here are the bullet points. Here's my evaluation. And they're usually like, makes sense, run with it. And so it's kind of being able to your point, understanding them emotionally, which is it's a superpower, to be honest. But then also, I coach my team with every personality type speaks a different language. And I need to match the language they speak so I am best heard. And I always liken it to, I went on a trip to Italy, and I was there for like a month, and everybody's around me always speaking Italian. And on one of the last days, I walked into a bar and I heard somebody speaking English from across the room, and I looked up and I was like, a friend. Because it was something that was familiar to me. And I feel like it's a very similar thing. And sometimes, unfortunately, the delta between your example of the tax person and you, sometimes the delta is too big to bridge. And that's I honestly, I think you made the best decision, is like, you're great, but your language is just so hard for me to match. Let me just find that person who speaks your language so much better, and you guys are actually going to hit it off. And then, and to your point, create a little partnership or like a little side alliance, and wash your hands and go find somebody who just has, like, you're joyful when you're around them and they're joyful, and you're like, I love working with you. And you always know when you have it, when, for me, we have the closing, and I know that I'm not going to get to talk to him every day. Like, I always know.
You feel the loss.
I'm like, oh, like something's like missing after that point. But it's so good when you have it.
It's so good hearing you say that, because it's like there's this thing where you're actually, when you get the magic, you're living with them. You know, you're living the same emotional journey. Part of it is you're part of that emotional journey, and yeah, the difference in people so often, you know, like you say with accountants and engineers, they do want facts and they want systems. They want to be able to trust a system. If you come and you don't have a clearly defined system, they're already going to be at unease. They're going to be, and so you might be the outgoing or the extroverted personality, but your system needs to be the high D. You know, that high, we're talking about disc profiles here. I don't know how we ended up with that, but that needs to be the high D, you know, because that high D needs to see the things, and it needs to be bullet point, because they will not waste their time reading a lot of data, and they will not, anybody else they're paying, they won't want to pay them for that time to read a lot of data. They want the facts, they want them, whereas the person who is maybe more to the high I will just want it in a conversation. But the C's will want it all, like, you know, in total form with fleshed out detailing and all the rest. Yeah, this is reading people, isn't it?
Yeah, and I find it's such an important piece of our jobs, because again, it really helps you enter the world and see the world as they perceive it, so then you can better match pace with them and help them have the same vision of this thing that you're trying to articulate.
I think that's,
and I love that you know
so
the disc.
powerful.
I love that you know the disc personality, because in my mind, I'm always referencing it when I'm talking to people, because they have each personality. There's 4 personalities, and each one has a different value system. And so understanding, you don't have to be perfect or nail it. And even if you're a little off, you're still close. But understanding where their values lie, you can adjust how you're presenting a piece of information, again, so they're receiving it in the most optimal way that they feel comfortable doing so. And you're not forcing them to do it your way. Yeah,
you said to them, they might be in your process, but you've got to speak to them in their language. And you said it before, you've got to get closer to their language. You know, the high D will want that information. They want to tell somebody to get something done. And if you don't bring the offer in time, you're wasting their time. If you don't try and close them soon enough, then you're wasting their time. They don't want to talk to you about it. They just want it done. They just want it done. And if that
fast.
Fast. Yep.
And
they'll make the decision.
The C personalities, you hit the nail on the head. They want perfection, and so the hardest is working with the CDs. They want it fast and they want it perfect, which that's where I lie. And it's really, I have to really check myself with my team of giving grace, because I want everything perfect all the time.
Right, so you're CD.
I am. It's funny. I've taken the test a couple times. I'm literally, I've taken the test probably 4 times, and because I'm always like, is that true? And I'm literally 50-50 every time.
Oh wow!
It's bizarre.
Wow, that's so cool. I'm very familiar with a lot of it, because my wife is a business coach and a recruiter, and so as a business coach, she uses phenomenal tools, and DISC is one of the tools that she uses, and then she recruits CFOs, COOs, and CEOs. No, not CEOs, GMs, general managers. So she really only recruits those positions, and she doesn't recruit them for corporate. She just recruits them for owner, founder, operated businesses. And she gets so far down the rabbit hole that it just blows me away, like how people will behave and stuff. But I've learned so much from her, and when I'm meeting with people, I'm sort of a blunt instrument compared to her. I'm like...
I don't know. I think you've got it. I think you actually have it intuitively, just listening to the way you created the emotional floor plan and the way that you holistically look at things. I actually think you intuitively,
Maybe she trained me.
probably, there's that. They do a good job of that.
Yeah,
There's,
exactly. It's a survival technique. Learn some of the tricks.
Don't quote me on this, but there's, I think it's called Crystal Ball, and it's a plugin on Chrome,
Yeah.
and it's a paid service. I'm not getting paid for even mentioning this, but
But
what
we're
it
happy to
does
take
is-
money for it. Yeah.
yeah,
Happy to be paid in the future.
exactly. Be happy to sponsor it.
Yeah.
It's a plug-in to your email, so when you're writing an email to somebody, it'll tell you their personality type, and it's using the disk, and it'll tell you if you need to recraft your email for them to better understand it. Yeah,
Wow. I love that. That's
it's wild.
That's mind-blowing. Well, something like that. The intent of what you're doing never changes.
correct.
What it is you've just learnt to speak Spanish or French or whatever
That's
it
all it
is,
is.
because that's what they speak. And
Exactly.
it'll tell you, bullet point that, it'll tell you, because this is the needs of that person. I'm going to be
Yeah.
checking that one out for sure. I love so many cool things that AI has brought us in this
Has.
realm of being able to better communicate with other humans and better understand them. I love it. Love it.
I agree, and again, in being in careers that are very client-facing,
Mhm.
being able to really genuinely empathize with where they're at in the journey, and again, speak their language, it's just so important, because either moving, which
Yep.
that's what you're ultimately helping them do at some point. It makes the top 3 list of the most stressful things that a human can do in their life.
Isn't it death, divorce, and move?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you
Which
go.
the other two
Yeah.
are obviously very severe and incredibly
Well,
stressful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
so if-
moving is like, right up there. Like,
exactly. And so if we can, carefully build and nourish that relationship, then we're not going to be a source of stress for them in addition to this other stuff. We're actually then we're a resource for them to help guide them through that journey.
so when, can I ask you a question about interstate moving?
Please.
So when somebody's going to move interstate, and let's just say they're going to come east to west, yeah? And if you're going to go from, say, being in, I don't know, let's just take Florida to San Francisco, to Bay Area, whatever. A change like that. How, generally, I imagine most people, you tell me, what do people move there for? Why would they move from, say, Florida to San Francisco, or say, I don't know, somewhere on the Gulf Coast of Florida? No, don't do Gulf Coast. Do the other side. Yeah, Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would bring them to, say, San Francisco?
Great question. I'm originally from Connecticut, which is nestled
there you
right
go.
next to New York. So I'm East
Yeah.
Coast.
I know it.
And I
yeah.
moved 3,000 miles away to move to California. San Francisco onto itself it's a mass transient city. So the bulk of people that I'm friends with, my clients, they're actually not from here. But the whole Bay Area, essentially the whole peninsula, that's where Apple, Meta,
Yeah.
Tesla, all the biggest global brand names are nestled. And so with that, they've been recruiting the most brilliant minds from around the world for 40 plus years to this area.
True.
And so a lot of people come here for work, and then you have all the supporting companies, like the Deloittes and Levi's is here, and
Yeah.
Salesforce. And you just
Yeah.
have massive companies. And so a lot of people come here for the dream. They land their dream job and they want to be in the area. But interestingly enough, I find that it's one of those things people don't know to ask for help, or they don't know who to ask for help, so they don't ask for help.
Mm.
And so they're scouring Google to try to find coast to coast movers. They maybe have a nice art collection. Now they're trying to find, well, who services higher end, plus they have insurance and things like that. And so they don't know who to ask. And being in the industry, I'm just heavily networked. And most people who are successful in this industry, we just have all of these resources at our disposal. And then in addition to, I have the luxury of being with a very large brokerage. And so in all of those key points in the U.S., I have colleagues. And I have relationships with them. So when somebody calls me and they say, hey, I'm thinking about moving from Connecticut, I'm like, great. Because the ecosystem that is going to help them sell their house through that agent is the same ecosystem I have over here when you buy. And so it's going to be a more smooth, cohesive experience. Yeah. And then now combined, I have the resources to help with that entire move and experience of helping iron out the logistics and not just finding the home. And then once you get here, it becomes about, it really becomes about understanding the neighborhoods, because even though San Francisco is a small city, being on one side of it versus the other can literally add 45 minutes to your commute on top of your hour commute. And so understanding that, and there's so many times I've just had the hard conversation with clients, like, I know you love this house. I know you absolutely adore it and you want it. I just want to make you aware, this is a really busy street. This is going to be a hard commute for you. You're not actually close to the train. You're not close to the shuttle pickups. You're not close to these things. And I just want you to be aware of this before making the decision. And I've guided people through that into a better fitting neighborhood. And I've gotten these amazing responses. I've gotten long emails from people saying, like, thanks so much for guiding us here. We love the neighborhood. It's way more kid friendly. There's parks everywhere. Our dog loves it. And so, that's, I don't know if that answers the question. I know it was long-winded.
No, it was really good. It's an interesting thing because, the system's eco-structure is part of it. So you can trust that the way it's happening is the way it would happen through the whole system. It's taking care of part of it. Yeah. And then the other is your intimate knowledge of the neighborhoods and what that brings to it, because you're now matching not just what school they're going to send the kids to and what job, where their job is going to be. You're matching beyond that. You're matching the people to the neighborhood, and when you get to match them to the neighborhood, you can go, you know what, you'll really enjoy these places. There's these cafes or these restaurants, or there's this. People don't know about this place here. It's a little bit of a local secret. You want to discover that, and the best time to discover that would be about this time. And being that neighborhood guide is, without guiding them, but just being able to go, hey, you guys would probably really enjoy something like this. There's at that little, we have, 20, 30 minutes drive from here, there's one of the beach suburbs, and they have it's a small suburb right on the beach. But they have a square that's kind of built into the few shops that there are. And that square has jazz afternoons on a Sunday. Now, it's really a local thing. Yeah. But if you know that that's happening, like I know that's happening, when somebody says they're going to move to that kind of area. So I had some clients who moved from Brisbane City, which is an hour and a half, maybe hour and 3/4 from where that is. And I said to them, they've been going up to their old beach shack for a while, and we renovated it, made it into a whole new home. And I said to them, do you ever go to this other place, Peridgeon? And they were like, no, very rarely do we go to Peridgeon. And this guy's name's Adrian as well, and when I'm chatting to him, I'm like, yeah, so you don't... And he goes, no, we usually go to Sunshine, which is just slightly north, so they usually would go further north rather than south. And I'm like, okay. I said, have you ever... Because they have a beautiful sense of style of, they're like modern contemporary but with a mid-century overtone to it, and they were very prescriptive about some of those things in their design. And I said, do you know that they do those jazz like afternoons down in Bridge? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you guys maybe would check that out sometime. I wouldn't necessarily say do it every Sunday, but when you're driving in, if you just check it out, there'll be some posters around town that will tell you who's going to be playing, and it's just, take a blanket and sit in the square and take a bottle of wine or whatever it is and hang out. Doesn't cost anything. It's just a
That's cool.
thing. And they were like, wow, okay, yeah, cool, we'll go and do that. We'll give it a try. And so maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 months after they'd moved into it, I said, have you been back down? They said, well, we started doing it when you first told us about it. We went to a couple, and then the house was being built, so we weren't here. And then now we've just gone back, and they said it's like a little touch point. And we don't still go that way very often, but that's why we go there. It takes us down there if we just want to cruise down, and just that being a neighborhood guide thing, and it gives people. My reason for asking the difference between coast to coast is you bring, say, East Coast living style, which would be different from, say, California. I chose Florida because I went, okay, they're hot, sweaty, and California, up in San Francisco Bay Area, you've got June gloom, and then you've got, so you don't want to be stuck in the June gloom, right down
the States well. I love it.
Been there a bit. But then also, as you get further out and, maybe up around, parts of Mirren and stuff, it changes again, it's a bit different from being on Ocean Beach. And then how do you want to live? What's your lifestyle like? But they come from somewhere where, it might be quite a different climatic shift. Yeah. And we ideally see houses on good days. No realtor wants to take somebody through it when it's raining or under fog. We want to show it in its best light, which is usually a sunny day with a very light breeze. And we don't get to control it that much, luckily. But it's one of those things of them imagining living in it, and when they can imagine they live in it, then they're doing the sale, not you. You're facilitating it. And then when you can show them a bit of 100%. The neighborhood and, tick those boxes. So, it fascinates me. We get a lot of interstate people moving here, and we have January, February are really hot and sweaty. They are mean. But in the winter, it's sunny. It's beautiful. It's like being in Southern California. No June gloom, but it is like being in Southern California. It's sort of more LA, kind of climate. But it's not dry. It's humid. But in the winter, it's dry. Yeah, we get a dry winter. So just getting people to understand that, and when they're looking at buying a house, if we get involved early. Especially with land, but even if they're looking at buying a house and the realtor will ring me and say, hey, Adrian, we've got these people, they're going to need to alter this house. Would you come and have a look? And I'll go, let me have a look online first. So I'll have a look online, and from just looking online, I've been living here for 24 years, having a really good understanding of different places we've designed around the area, I can go, okay, cool. Well, they're going to experience these things in that spot, weather-wise. The environment is going to create these conditions in that spot. And if we know what the environment's going to create, then we've got the opportunity to go, okay, how much, say, outdoor living do you do versus indoor living do you do? How much do you want to do? Because this one's always going to have a cool breeze coming off that piece of land through there that's got this body of water in it. It'll always be a couple of degrees cooler. There'll be 2 months of the year you'll be thankful, but then there'll be another 6 months of the year that you'll find that you're living inside because of the way that breeze will permeate through your home, and you'll be behind closed doors. Just these things, this local knowledge stuff.
That's the expertise, is knowing that. Like knowing, hey, in this neighborhood, the fog rolls in earlier than this neighborhood. And you mentioned sunlight's important to you. You might want to explore this neighborhood. And it's, you're right. It's, and their decision is all emotional based. Like even if they're talking like your tax guy, they're saying dollars and cents, but it's still emotional. Emotion drives motion. And so they still,
I love that.
in case,
I'm stealing that, by the way.
Oh, go for it.
Emotion drives motion.
The case in point is when he ran into you 10 years later and wasn't telling you about the numbers, he was telling you about the feeling.
100%. He'd moved to feeling it. You know, one 100%. Of the things that we do is we, I do, I shouldn't say we, myself and another guy, and they're a tour company, and they do food tours all around the world. So if you've ever watched Chef's Table, that is like Sam's Rolodex. Those are the people in his Rolodex. And it's fascinating. Like he'd go, oh yeah, do you know who? And I'll be like, no. And then he'll tell me about an episode of Chef's Table, and I'll go, oh, I remember this. And he goes, yeah, well, that's him. Yeah. So with it, I joined up and partnered with him in doing architectural and food tours.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that what happens is you go on an architectural design experience, but from that, what you're really doing is you're also doing it. It's called Feast. His company's called Feast. You're really opening up your senses to great food, and then great architecture or inspiring landscapes. Depending on which way we go with which tour, and when you get to do that, Sam calls it breaking bread. We get to break bread with people. We get to sit and talk, and we do these small group tours, and we go and enlighten them with architecture. And, when I say architecture, it sounds so sort of like, with built structures, and then also you cannot, like we were saying, see something that will evoke an emotion. Being in it brings on a feeling, and it either feels good or it feels bad, and you respond to it based on that emotional feeling, that energy that it's putting into you. And one of the things that I've found is in traveling a lot for my own education on design, is the difference in being able to describe the feeling of something to somebody and journey them or understand their feeling in it is built off this thing of being able to, take that bit of time, to spend the time to feel it, to go through a kind of process that gives them a sense of it. And when we do these tours, it's like, it's amazing. Small groups, those people bond into a kind of a team-like fashion as well, and there'll be pieces of those teams will be different personalities, but over 5 or 6 days, maybe sometimes 7, they will kind of find their tribe within our tours are 10 to 16 people, and so that's the maximum numbers. And then when we go to eat and stuff like that, they all these nuances of each other's personalities come out, and they get to bond through this, as well as being in architecture or discovering architecture or interior design, or technology, like the technology of building as well. And it's fascinating. It is so joyful to be, I don't know, a part of seeing it all come together. It's
that is genius.
Well, Sam bought the food.
It's absolutely genius, and here's why it's genius: is because homes, like I sell homes, they're typically 3 of the 4 senses.
Yeah.
Right?
Go there.
They hear
Go
it, they
there.
see it, right? And they hear it, see it, feel it. But
Yeah.
then the food brings the gustatory. They actually get to taste it, and then that's the breaking bread. You get to actually have
love
these
that.
conversations, and you've actually evoked all of them literally
Yeah.
into the experience. Absolutely genius, and I love that you guys are doing that. It's such a good thing.
It's one of the other things we like to do with it is we like to throw some adventure against it as well. So
Yeah.
we will look for some experiences that nobody knows they're going to experience, and they're not part of the itinerary, but they are
Yeah.
curated experiences that happen, and they people go, oh wow, we kind of mislead them a little into a space, and then we throw something that they were never expecting to them in that space, and they're like, oh my god, how could this happen? You might go into I don't know, an example might be that you might go into an old like building or church or something, and then next thing there is a banquet feast that is being put on for you, and you've gone in to explore some piece of tile mosaic or something, some red herring that we've sent them or brought them in for, and then suddenly there's chandeliers and and tables and waiters, and everybody's like, what, in an unexpected space. Yeah,
That is super cool. Yeah,
there's other ones as well,
You
but
guys
just
are-
fun things like that.
you're onto something really good.
That's a real joyful journey, because we get to see people feel where they are, and in doing that, if I just went back to just what's in it for me, is I get to be able to take that and watch what they do, and then understand them and spend time with them in it, and then it deepens my ability to connect with my clients and other people. And also that thing of the unexpected, some people aren't good with surprises, and so you've got to nurture them differently in those spaces than you do with the people who are just like, what, party, like, here we go.
Yeah, the high S, the high C's, we don't like surprises. We like good surprises. Man, I feel like we can just like ramble for hours, but unfortunately we're at time. This was amazing, and I genuinely I love your approach with how you just care for your clients. It comes through. It comes through everything that you're doing. And you're welcome back anytime you want.